we saw white smoke, and all of a sudden, we have a new pope. We also have an old pope. So there's kind of two popes. But nonetheless, habemus second papam. Okay? Now, he's in charge. It is Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio. There's no need to say it that way. He is Argentinian. I will do this joke for the third time now. They couldn't get Messi, so they went with Bergoglio. I'm pretty sure that's not how you pronounce it. Anyway, Argentinian comes in. First time it's a Latin American pope. It's the first time it's a Jesuit priest that has become pope. He gets to wear the funny red shoes and the whole outfit, and he's got the funny hat. He gets to go up on that big grand stage and balcony, and everybody goes crazy. People in the crowd will cry like, "Oh my God, we've got a new pope!" You don't know anything about it. What do you know about it? You know what I would have done if I was on the ground? I would have gone up to the people who were crying and be like, "All right, tell me one fact about Bergoglio. Just one." I mean, like, you're so excited. Like, "Oh my God, we have, yes, Jorge Mario." Okay, all right, one thing about it. I don't know. Okay. Now, presumably the guys from Argentina would know him, but I get it. Catholics think that this guy talks to God, so they're pretty excited that we've got a new communicator. And since there's now two popes, which never happened before, when do they hand that off? Is a Pope Benedict? He said, "Wait, I'm losing you. Wait, come again?" There's a lot of static. Oh no, the line dropped. Right. Meanwhile, now he's Pope Francis, by the way. Pope Francis, like, I can hear you now. They do the Vulcan mind meld. Is it when the white smoke comes out? Is it there's some official ceremony at 4:30 in the morning? Is that when God comes in and gives his first text? Like, I'm here, man. Okay, here are my new ideas. In fact, of course, when we look at Pope Francis's new ideas, they, of course, seem remarkably similar to Pope Benedict's old ideas. So, indeed, tale of two popes. They're both anti-contraception, anti-abortion, anti-gay marriage. And look, they've both spoken against poverty in powerful ways, so give them credit on that. Okay, now, Pope Francis is a complicated character. Okay, this is not an easy person to say he's bad guy, he's good guy, etc. Now, in 2010, on the issue of gay marriage and gay adoption, he was dead set against it in Argentina, his home country. He said the Argentine people will face a situation whose outcome can seriously harm the family. Now look, he's a cardinal. Of course they're going to say that, right? So I'm not shocked and chagrined by that. I don't agree with it, obviously. But then he gets a little deeper into the weeds, and this isn't good. At stake is the identity and survival of the family, father, mother, and children. At stake are the lives of many children who will be discriminated against in advance and deprived of their human development given by a father and a mother and willed by God. At stake is the total rejection of God's law engraved in our hearts. Getting a little harsher and harsher as we go along. There's some reports that he is in an Italian version of Opus Dei. Well, I thought Opus Dei was Italian. But anyway, now remember, even though he's Argentinian, his family is originally Italian. So this is the first time they've had a non-European pope, but it's the Vatican being like, well, he's kind of still one of us. I mean, he's South American, but he's at least Italian. You know what I'm saying? Paisan, come on in. Now, when talking about gay marriage and adoption, he got even worse. He said that adopting those laws in Argentina would be, quote, a move of the father of lies who seeks to confuse and deceive the children of God. Damn. The father of lies, of course, is Satan. So he's saying gay adoption, gay marriage is Satan's work. Okay, even for a cardinal, that's pretty strong. Now, on the other hand, he has gone, back in 2001, for example, to take care of AIDS patients. He washed them and he kissed their feet. So that's pretty serious. I mean, that's a real show of respect, at least. So he's a fascinating character. He takes a bus to work in Argentina. Now he'll be taking the Pope-mobile, but still, okay? And he cooks his own food, which is hilarious. That's like a big point of pride for, like, what a humble man, he cooks his own food. A lot of us cook our own food. Now, for me, it's cereal, but nonetheless. Okay, but still, for a cardinal, that's a big deal. And he often visited the slums of Argentina. And he cares deeply about the poor, and that's also true, too, and we'll get to that in a second. When you talk to his official biographer, Sergio Rubin, he says he's complicated. He says, quote, is Bergoglio a progressive, a libertarian theologist even? No. He's no third world priest. Does he criticize the International Monetary Fund and neoliberalism? Yes. Does he spend a great deal of time in the slums? Yes. So he's a complicated character, and there might be some hope in change, or Pope in change. Okay. But to be fair to Pope Benedict, he was pretty good about the issues of the poor and the bankers being too greedy and setting up the wrong kind of system too. Now, Pope Francis back in 2007, of course, when he was Cardinal Bergoglio, said, "We live in the most unequal part of the world, which has grown the most, yet reduced misery the least," he said. The unjust distribution of goods persists, creating a situation of social sin that cries out to heaven and limits the possibilities of a fuller life for so many of our brothers. Okay, so when I read stuff like that and how often he visited the slums and he thinks that the world is set up an unequal system here and the rich are getting richer and they're getting greedier and he wants to fight back against that, well, of course, I'm in favor of that. But obviously there's a lot of conservative leanings to it. Now we get to the final issue here, which is back in 1976 when there was a military takeover in Argentina and they were going after a lot of the people who were, of course, not on the military side. The military was right-wing. A couple of the priests that Bergoglio was working with kept going to the slums when the military leadership said, do not go to the slums, because they didn't want people helping the poor or encouraging them, etc. Well, one of the people that were taken away, two of those priests were taken away, and it's written about in a book called The Silence by journalist Horacio Verbitsky. And the two priests were Orlando Yorio and Francisco Jalix, always the worst pronouncer of names. Anyway, Yorio apparently, according to the Associated Press, accused Bergoglio of effectively handing them over to the death squads by declining to tell the regime that he endorsed their work. And Bergoglio was an important priest at that time, a high-ranking official in the Society of Jesus of Argentina. So that's some pretty heavy charges. Now, Bergoglio fights back and tells the Associated Press, in essence, and Associated Press characterizes it this way: both men were freed after Bergoglio took extraordinary behind-the-scenes actions to save them, including persuading dictator Jorge Videla's family priest to call in sick so that he could say Mass in the junta's leader's home, where he privately appealed for mercy. Now, that's his version of the facts. Who's right? Well, it's of course very hard to tell, but former Dean of Social Sciences at the University of Buenos Aires, Fortuna Melamachi, says, quote, history condemns him. So that's strong language about Bergoglio. It shows him to be opposed to all innovation in the church, and above all, during the dictatorship, it shows he was very cozy with the military. So, a mixed bag, obviously very conservative in some respects, and doesn't seem like much of a change from Pope Benedict. Now, on the other hand, there are some good moments, obviously, here, and he seems much more humble. There's a story that he came in second. This is true. He came in second in the last round of voting to Pope Benedict. So he was almost Pope that time. But apparently, the story goes that he gave an emotional plea not to vote for him, and that's why Pope Benedict won. So that's interesting. The flip side to that, there's always flip sides, right, is that you got 115 cardinals there. That is probably the most political environment you have ever seen. It probably puts the Democrats and Republicans to shame, right? For a guy to win that vote, he's probably pretty savvy. So there's a lot of like, oh, me? Oh, no, golly gee, don't vote for me. Oh, well, you look at that, I happen to win. Where's my red shoes? So hard to know which way he's going to go. Obviously, there's some significant strikes against him, as there would be for almost anybody in his high-ranking position in this present-day Catholic Church. Obviously, how he deals with the controversies, including the sex scandals involving kids, that's, of course, the rape and the molestations, etc. And then the gay sex scandals that apparently are going to hit the Vatican very soon, if you believe the Italian newspapers, which I do, will determine a lot of his legacy. And he chose Pope Francis as his name because Francis was a reformer. Whether he can actually reform this church is a very open question. He's now in charge, so you can't say, well, he's doing this or that just to get along or to be able to move on up. Now we'll see what his true colors are. So, indeed, habemus Papa.